Dopamine Detox: How to reset your brain for success. Brain fog, lack of focus, the feeling of being overwhelmed. It's all so common in our culture today. We wake up to stare at social media on our phones, go to work to stare at a computer, probably the internet, all day, then come home to stare at a television screen and our phones some more. Often we stay up much later than we should, making our minds foggier and our eyelids heavier the next morning. The vicious cycle continues day after day. Internet consumption is at an all-time high. Just over 87% of the US population uses the internet regularly, which equates to 288 million users. We use the internet for everything, for work purposes, school purposes, recreational purposes. More than anything, we retreat from the harsh truth of reality and escape into the world of social media. Why are we so addicted to social media and the internet? Dopamine. Social media feeds our brains with little bursts of chemical called dopamine. Every time we get a like or a comment on our post, or see a video that resonates with us, a splash of dopamine enters our system. It's addictive, and in this fast-paced, distracted, emotionally disconnected world, it's a feeling we all crave. The problem is, we get so used to feeling that dopamine rush that we eventually become numb, which translates to brain fog, lack of focus, feeling overwhelmed. Sound familiar? What's a consumer to do then? How do we fix this foggy brain syndrome once and for all? The answer may be found in a practice called dopamine fasting. But before we dive into the solution, we first need to understand the problem. What is dopamine? To put it extremely mildly, dopamine is a chemical produced in our brain that allows our neurons to pass signals to each other. Neurons are the messengers. They carry information between the brain and our body's muscles. While there are 4 different pathways dopamine can travel through, there is one that plays a critical role in the dopamine social media conflict: the mesolimbic pathway. The mesolimbic pathway is instrumental in building addictive behaviors in our brains. When dopamine passes through the mesolimbic pathway, we get an intense feeling of pleasure or satisfaction. Then we become addicted to that feeling. Our mesolimbic pathway tells our brain that it wants more dopamine, and the dopamine rewards us for acting on that impulse. Then we run into a problem. The dopamine dries up eventually. As soon as you obtain that thing you wanted, that dose of pleasure, the dopamine stops flowing. The satisfaction is gone, and maybe you didn't even feel as satisfied as you thought you would anyway. So you start chasing the dopamine again. The mesolimbic pathway throws a fit and screams at your brain to find another source of dopamine. The more dopamine you get, the more your brain craves it, but the less effective it is at satisfying your heightened need for instant gratification. How does social media and the internet change our brains? There's no arguing the fact that tech CEOs in Silicon Valley are brilliant, highly intelligent people. In fact, they're a little too smart for our own good. The companies, apps, and platforms they've developed, with the aid of highly skilled marketing geniuses, are like Venus flytraps for our brains. They're sticky and they won't let go. Apps like Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat are specifically designed to give us that good old shot of dopamine every time someone tags us in a photo, likes our post, or sends a snap. Our brains begin to recognize these notifications as positive reinforcement, and we're slowly trained to increase our screen time so we can get our regular hits of dopamine. The behavior begins to mimic that of an addict. We keep coming back in the hopes that the little red notification bubble appears, triggering the positive reinforcement in our mesolimbic pathways. To make matters worse for our brains, these companies, along with several others, have discovered the beauty of targeted ads. Now it's almost impossible for you to become bored with your Facebook timeline because it's tailored to your likes and interests. You thought it was hard to break away before? The ultra-specific content in your news feed knows how to keep the dopamine flowing now more than ever. How do I break the cycle? Don't worry, it's totally possible to break free from dopamine's fickle grasp. The best way to cut the cord is to replace dopamine production with the production of other happy chemicals in your brain. There are plenty of positive neurotransmitters, chemicals responsible for communication just like dopamine, that your brain is capable of producing. Serotonin can help regulate anxious feelings. Endorphins increase your feelings of pleasure and well-being. Oxytocin is a crowd favorite as well because it gives you warm, fuzzy feelings of love and peace. Finally, GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, helps you feel calm and peaceful. All you have to do is resist your brain to stop producing dopamine and start creating these other chemicals for a change. That's where the dopamine detox comes into play. Detox from dopamine. All right, it's high time to break up with dopamine. You're tired of feeling mentally and emotionally exhausted, right? Nobody can blame you for that. The best way to rejuvenate your body and mind is to kick dopamine to the curb. Dopamine detox, also known as dopamine fasting, is the method of cutting out any hobbies or activities that trigger the production of dopamine. Ironically enough, the trend started in Silicon Valley, where CEOs and industry leaders were desperate for a hard reset of their weary minds. Now the trend is spreading, and some say it has changed their lives. The idea is to give your brain a break from the constant stimulation and pleasure-seeking activities that usually inundate our brainwaves. After so long, even the most common mundane tasks feel more rewarding because it's a form of stimulation. It's almost like resetting your mind so it returns to its usual baseline of stimulation and neurotransmitter production. Think of it like a sugar detox or sugar fast. If you consume loads and loads of sugar every day, it eventually doesn't taste sweet to you anymore. Your body, especially your taste buds, become accustomed to the delicious flavors and doesn't feel the impact. So you start increasing your sugar intake to satisfy your growing cravings. When you finally cut the sugar and begin the detox process, your body adjusts back to its baseline and regulates your blood sugar levels. After some time, what once tasted like nothing will be overpowering your taste buds. Even fruit will start to taste like candy. The same principle applies to dopamine. Cut out the excess, delete apps from your phone, avoid Netflix for a while, hide your video game console away in the closet. Then, replace those dopamine-inducing activities with calming, quiet activities instead. Go for a walk in the evening instead of binging on your favorite TV show. Read a book before bed rather than scrolling through your Twitter feed. Maybe even sit outside in the grass and just be. Whatever activities you choose, just be sure that they are not digital and dopamine-free. Embrace the boredom when it comes. It's part of the reset process, the detox of overstimulation. If you're ready to take the plunge into dopamine fasting, here are some pro tips to help you set yourself up for success. Pro tip number 1, use your phone. I know. You thought the whole idea was to stop using your phone, right? Let me explain what I mean. Your phone is not inherently evil. You can actually use some of its features to help you combat the forces of the internet. For Apple users, check out the screen time option in your settings. Use this feature to view just how long you typically spend surfing social media. Remember to love yourself no matter what, and to set time limits for how long you use a given app. Your phone will send you a notification when your time limit is up for each day. Don't fret, all you Android users, you're invited to the party too. Your devices have digital well-being settings that operate much like Apple's screen time does. Using features like this on your phone is especially helpful if you're trying to cut back on social media slowly, rather than quitting cold turkey. Speaking of which, pro tip number 2, take baby steps. Maybe pulling the plug entirely on social media, or any digital media for that matter, sounds a bit like biting off more than you can chew. That's okay. This is just like breaking any other addiction. It's hard, but everybody's journey is different. If this is the case, identify your weakest points when it comes to media and internet consumption. What is your kryptonite? What is the first thing you want to scroll through when you wake up? And what's the last thing you want to see before going to bed? Do you have it in mind? Great. Make a commitment to cutting out that app, device, or whatever it may be for a set period. Maybe you take Sundays off from social media. Maybe you only watch Netflix 2 or 3 nights out of the week and commit to reading a book the other nights. It will become easier to make more cuts as time goes on. As long as you stay true to your commitments and keep discipline at the forefront, you can reset and rejuvenate your brain to normal stimulation levels. Pro tip number 3, delete, delete, delete. I know I said it before, set times and goals for your screen time use, or take baby steps. But once you've progressed through those 2 pro tips, the next step you can take if you feel you still need a kick in your detox of dopamine is to delete the apps altogether. Now, don't get too worked up over this. Deleting the apps from your phone doesn't mean you're removing your accounts and won't be able to catch up on the things you've missed while you were gone. Social media apps keep track of your notifications while you're gone, so they'll be ready and waiting for you when you get back. You may be surprised to find that you aren't as excited about the number of notifications you have. #growth. We've come to our 4th and final pro tip of how to reset your brain for success with the dopamine detox. But before we get there, consider subscribing. And don't forget to ring that notification bell. And if you like this content, hit that like button and comment below. What's our 4th and final pro tip of how to reset your brain for success with the dopamine detox? Meditate and be grateful. In addition to removing something else from your routine, why not add something positive? Meditation is a powerful way to center yourself and naturally align your dopamine levels. Your overstimulated mind will be able to find peace and calm and help you appreciate living in the moment. And even if you decide not to meditate, at least take some time each day to reflect on the things you're grateful for. Gratitude journals or even prayers have been shown to increase overall happiness and peace. It's another excellent way to center yourself, quiet your mind, and focus on what truly matters in life. Thanks for watching Cerebral Life, the channel where you learn more and improve your life. See you next time.